I couldn't justify spending several $100s on a finishing press, so I decided to make my own. And the key was getting these 5-star threaded knobs. I got mine from woodcraft.com, but you can also get them at Amazon and other places. Mine are 1/4 inch by 20 and about 2 inches in diameter. The cost is about $3 each. To go with the knobs, I got 4-inch long threaded bolts at my local hardware store. I would recommend taking one of the bolts with you to get the bolts, because it isn't good enough that the bolts are the right size. You want the bolts to spin easily along the entire length of the bolt, and with some bolts that is not possible. They might be the right size, but you can turn them, but the bolts won't turn easily. 2 knobs and 2 bolts cost about $7. I had scrap plywood and oak lumber, so there was no further cost in making my finishing presses. My frames are 15 inches long, with a base support about 9 inches long. An 8-foot length of lumber was enough to make 2 finishing frames. If you need to buy lumber and you don't have access to a saw, I would recommend buying wood that is 4 or 6 inches wide and having the store cut the wood to the length you need. You'll need one board that is 1 by 4 by 8. It will cost you about between $10 and $30 depending on the type of wood you buy. And a second board that is 1 by 2 by 8, which is about half that cost. Each set of boards will make 2 presses. If you do have access to a saw, a 2 by 4 piece of 3/4 inch lumber, plywood, will save you money, and you can make your presses any height you want. A drill press is a big help when drilling the holes for the bolts, but this can be done with a hand drill. Just be careful to drill the holes as close to perpendicular as you can. Tape or clamp the 2 sides of the boards to your presses together, and drill the holes to both boards at the same time using a 1/4 inch drill bit. My holes are 1 inch from the end and about 1.5 inches down from the top. Separate the bolts and then drill the holes on one board using a slightly larger drill bit so that the boards will slide easily. Glue a narrow board to the base of each vertical board and then put them in a vise or clamp to dry. If you don't have clamps, the boards can be attached with finishing nails or screws. And then one on each side. Glue, either nail or screw, and you've got your base to your press. The reason for this is so that the press doesn't tip over when you are gluing something up. Without a base, when I try to glue it up, you can see how the press just wants to tip right over. With the base, there's no problem with the press tipping over. Most of my books are either 5 by 8, 6 by 9, or 7 by 10, but I can bind a book that is 8.5 by 11 using this press. And all of my presses were made for much less than the cost of buying one press. Of course, they may not be as pretty as the all wooden presses, but they certainly are cheaper. For simple binding, for a perfect binding, I simply drop the text block in the press, and then glue up one side, glue the other side, and then using a second press, glue up the text block, and that's all there is to it. Easy and fast way to do things. And when the text block is dried, I can set it into another press and it's ready to have the mold put on, end bands, a spine stiffener, and it's then ready to be encased.